Welcome back to the Kyber Collective. I'm one of your three hosts, Sig, and I'm joined by Annie.
Hello.
And Flowers.
Hiya.
Today we are tackling Revenge of the Sith.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. We have made it through. This is the last of the prequels. The end of an era.
Definitely.
It's a little bittersweet.
You guys know what's next.
Yeah. Extremely bittersweet because I love this film so much, but also it hurts me. So
yeah,
that's an ongoing theme of Star Wars, I think.
Yeah, I think that's what
very much so.
Star Wars has in common is it hurts me. Obviously, we're going to talk about the original Revenge of the Sith today, the first version of Revenge of the Sith that was ever released, and therefore the original canonical version of Revenge of the Sith, the Lego game. Which came out 2 months before the actual film and contained all of the scenes from Revenge of the Sith and spoiled the entire movie, including all the deleted scenes as well. So Shaq T's death scene is in the Lego game, even though that's a deleted scene.
How did they let this happen, though?
Yeah, I was looking this up. Apparently, it's actually super common for a bunch of things that happen with Star Wars. So, there was a comic, I think, of The Empire Strikes Back that was released, before The Empire Strikes Back was actually in theaters. And, a script of, I think, Attack of the Clones was released at one point. So they seem to have not been very precious about spoilers. And I guess Lego had a date to meet. And so they put out the game.
Yeah, yikes. 2 months prior.
Yeah, so that is officially the first version of Revenge of the Sith. We'll actually talk about the film, though, instead of the Lego game. But I do love the Lego game.
Yeah. The Lego games are hilarious.
They're so good. So good. I love them so much. Lego has such an amazing sense of humor.
They really do.
Yeah. So I have organized things I would like to talk about in this film into 4 exciting sections. The first of which I have titled The Bants.
I love the bands. The bands in this movie is great.
They're so good.
They're so good.
This film is like watching Titanic, where the first half of Titanic is a nice period romance and the second half is a disaster film. And
it's very true.
The first half of this film is a buddy comedy, and the last half of this film is the most depressing, soul-crushing thing that has ever been put on film.
It really is. It's what makes it so difficult, because you are on such a high in the first half.
Yeah.
And then you get plummeted to death in the ground at the end.
I think the Bants in this is the peak of the Obi-Wan Anakin relation. I mean, there is nothing that is not funny between Obi-Wan's Sith Lord Zara speciality in a room with Sidious, Tyrannus, and Vader.
Yeah, the irony in that situation of Obi-Wan saying that is not lost on me.
It's incredible. And that entire rescue sequence is the stupidest thing. And
it's the best.
Wait a minute, we're smarter than this.
And
apparently not.
We're still flying half a ship.
Spring the trap.
And his little hair toss.
So I guess my question is how the hell do you think these 2 idiots got anything done?
Well, the Clone Wars has reassured me that they do in fact get things done.
They do.
Based on this movie, though, I think they get things done really fun. I would love to have seen those home videos if Anakin ever took them of their adventures together.
Yeah.
They definitely work. They're in sync now.
Yes.
The humor is just right. They seem to understand each other. I think they're also described as brothers at this point. They were so perfectly aligned together. I don't know. It's that special quality that they had. They really knew each other. They worked well together until they didn't.
Yeah. I think that the kind of chemistry and the charisma between the two of them really has come to the fore in this one. I think it's partly because Hayden doesn't have to do the stupid voice anymore.
Yeah.
But they're so believable as 2 people who have lived in each other's pockets for a really long time and who know each other super duper well and are true sort of comrades in arms.
You could feel their history.
Yeah.
They knew each other. They kind of grew up together.
Yeah.
They work well. Their banter is on point.
It's so good.
You should just assume that Obi-Wan's going to be distressed by something Anakin did while flying. Anakin's going to be like, sorry, oops.
It's
yeah, and the way that Anakin carries Obi-Wan over his shoulder. I feel like they've done that for each other at least a dozen times.
Yeah.
You know, he's just like very like, oh, again.
Yeah.
You know.
That's not the first time Anakin carried Obi-Wan on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and the bit when they're in the two like little shuttlecraft things, and Anakin's just like, move right, and Obi-Wan's like, no, I'm covered in buzz droids. You go ahead, leave me. And Anakin's like, move right.
This is no time for this, Master. Move right.
Just do what I say.
And Anakin's defense of R2.
Yes.
Like, he's trying.
No loose wire jokes.
No loose wire jokes. I didn't say anything.
So good. And if you haven't seen the deleted scene of Anakin making beep boop noises, you need to go to YouTube right now. Like, pause this podcast, go to YouTube, look up the deleted scenes, and listen to Anakin do beep boop speak, because it's the best thing.
Yeah, he's like, beep boop bop is up, so we're going up. No, wait, bleep bloop bloop is down.
It's so funny.
I think.
I love it so much. So good. So good.
He was, this is Anakin at his peak.
Yeah.
He was hysterical.
Yeah.
He made beeping noises.
We get such a short window of it. But what I think is really cool is like this little window is like you understand why it was such a loss for him to become Vader, like why Obi-Wan was so attached to him, and like just this brief little window like makes the bit at the end so painful because they packed so much. Like, I believe that these are two people who love each other and have spent way too much time together.
Yeah. You could see their history. Yeah. They get each other's jokes. They get each other's vibe.
Yeah.
They're buddies. They're best friends.
They are. Right. So that's the Bants, which is also the last time we'll ever be happy again.
I don't want the Bants to go.
True. I haven't been happy since
we all found out how Revenge of the Sith ended.
Oh boy. It was, very harrowing.
Yes. So one thing I think we should talk about is Palpatine as a villain and how effective he is as a villain. And one of the things that I most noticed kind of diving back into Revenge of the Sith, and it's present in the other films, is how good a manipulator and how good a groomer Palpatine is. And I know we have previously in Attack of the Clones talked about some of the places where the dialogue was a hindrance.
Yeah.
When they wrote Palpatine's dialogue, it's exceptionally well executed, I think. So many of the scenes where he is clearly putting ideas in Anakin's mind. I mean, he never spells things out. He intimates, he hints.
Yeah.
Even when he's talking about the Sith, I think there's a line about where Anakin is like, the Jedi would never do that. The Sith look inwards, the Jedi look towards others to try and help people. And Palpatine just very gently goes, and the Jedi don't look inwards. And like, it's so many little planting all of these seeds the whole way through. I think the way that he's written, and of course Ian McDiarmid's performance as a kindly old terrifying groomer grandpa is so good. I think this is the film where we really see Palpatine come to the fore as an actual villain rather than a kind of puppeteer behind the scenes.
Yeah.
And I guess my question is, what are your guys' thoughts on Palpatine as a fully revealed, fully realized villain in this?
He was terrifying.
Yeah, he was terrifying.
Once he was caught out, right?
Yeah.
He was terrifying. That line that he has, we make fun of it. It's like, no. That's scary in the theater. It's scary to watch. It's scary to rewatch because you're like, God, he's unhinged. Like, this is what he's been hiding. This is his true face because he's just been putting on a show for like 15 years. And it's very meticulous and very calculated. And he is a master manipulator. He had the patience for this. And I think he was an exceptionally well done villain. Mm-hmm. He is the ultimate villain.
Yeah.
And extremely well written. I like that you pointed out the dialogue because his dialogue is very purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
and you know what he's doing, and it's easy to read things a certain way depending on how you want to interpret it. And he was careful enough around the Jedi that they never suspected something. They suspected something, and I think by this point, by Revenge of the Sith.
Yeah.
But up until then, it was working, and he's terrifying. This is somebody you don't want in politics, and he was in the front and center.
Yeah. He benefits enormously on rewatch, because when you go back, there's more and more in all of the little things that he says, all of the little needles he places, the way he talks to Anakin, the kind of double meaning behind every line when you realize he's actually getting what he wants, but he's downplaying it. Like, he gets creepier on every rewatch of these films that I do.
He's very creepy.
Yeah.
During the buddy cop moments, like when they go rescue him, he tries to convince Anakin just to leave Obi-Wan behind. And Obi-Wan, he's just he's knocked out. And Anakin's like, his fate will be ours. Like, he wasn't going to listen to Palpatine quite yet.
Yeah.
But that was just chilling, because he had just gotten done telling him to cut Dooku's head off, and he did it. So he decided to kind of test him a little further. Will you do something else that I tell you to do?
Yeah.
He's always testing him. It is very creepy.
Yeah.
He's a brilliant actor. Yeah. He's just amazing.
He really is, because that scene in particular, there's a switch when Obi-Wan is knocked unconscious, because he's a kindly, he's the Chancellor of the Republic, and then Obi-Wan goes down and he's pressing, he's sinister towards Anakin. He's, like you said, he's pressing to see how far he can go. And then Obi-Wan wakes up again and he goes back to doddering old Chancellor of the Republic.
Yep.
And even the silly little facial expressions he's making, and his body language changes. Like, he only lets that out when Anakin is alone with him.
I hate him. He's a great villain.
Yeah.
Oh, God, that's his appeal. He's such a well-written villain that you can't... I feel like the appropriate response for me is to hate him.
Yeah.
Because he's such a well-written villain.
You love to hate him.
Yeah.
He's well-written and well-acted. And
the other moment that comes to mind is when they do catch him and Mace Windu comes in with Kit Fisto, and I forget who the other two are. And that moment he leaps out from behind the desk, and I know it's been memed 6 million times of him doing the little whirligig spin at them with his lightsaber, but it's so creepy, because it's a non-natural movement for a human.
Yeah.
And it's everything that has been repressed kind of bursts out. And then literally in that scene, the 3 Jedi behind Mace are just dead. Yeah. And it's just him and Mace from that point out. And you're like, oh, okay. So not only is he a fantastic manipulator, he's a better fighter than almost all the Jedi. We're so screwed.
They should have brought more Jedi.
Yeah.
I'm always like, why didn't you bring everybody with you?
Yeah.
Yeah. He was more powerful than all of them. Yeah. And you're right. There was this unnatural element to how he was fighting. And I don't like thinking about Kit Fisto immediately dying as he did.
I don't like to think about it either. Mace had him.
Yeah. Just one of many reasons that I'm a Mace Windu stan is I think he's massively undersold. I think part of this movie in particular actually is part of why he's so undersold in fandom, because he no longer trusts Anakin, and he's very open about that. Mm-hmm. And, Obi-Wan doesn't trust Palpatine. I think the line is, be careful of your friend Palpatine. And then he has that discussion with Anakin when the council asks Anakin to spy on Palpatine. Yeah. But Mace Windu explicitly says that he doesn't trust Anakin, and that is completely warranted. He's it's clear that the council has understood that the threat is a lot closer to home than they're comfortable to admit. It's clear that they understand that there is someone pulling the strings, and that the war is going to come to a close. And it's clear that there are reasons not to trust Anakin. And I think people are really uncomfortable with the fact that Mace Windu flat out said, I don't trust him. But I my answer to that is Mace Windu was right.
He was right. There were a lot of reasons that you would find Anakin's behaviors questionable. Yeah. I think he had the unbiased views of him and was like, this is troublesome. I don't trust him enough to complete what we want.
Yeah.
Or just trust him, period.
Yeah.
Was he wrong? No, he was very obviously right.
Well, he was. And even the line, when Anakin tells him that Palpatine is a Sith Lord, he says, you will have gained my trust. And then in walks Anakin and chops his hands off. So...
Yeah, I think you didn't trust him in that, like, you wouldn't, like, necessarily trust somebody that's in a cult. You know, like, he knew that Anakin had been indoctrinated into something and somehow. And I mean, he hadn't made those terrible choices yet, but Mace knew that he was on his way to something.
Yeah.
It was unfortunate. But.
Yeah. Anakin's a tricky subject.
He is, yeah.
Because, like, he is responsible for what he did, but you also can't deny he was heavily groomed for what he was raised to do.
Yeah.
It just sucks all around.
Yeah. And I mean, the argument gets made quite a lot that he was not offered enough support from the Jedi. I think the opposite argument can be made is that the Jedi put way too much trust in him, which is sort of what Mace Windu is saying. I mean, they're constantly putting him on missions that are critical. They're asking him to do things that are difficult. I think spying on your friend, even if they weren't a Sith Lord, is quite a tall order.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And the Clone Wars kind of deepens this, is that Anakin is constantly being trusted with these really important, massively extensive missions. You could make an argument that Mace Windu doesn't trust him because he thinks that he's close to a breaking point, and that the context of the conversation is that, will Anakin be able to follow through on this spying on the Chancellor? Well, I don't trust him to, because I think what we've asked of him is too much. That's probably quite a kind reading of it.
Yeah.
I think there's this constant, the Jedi didn't give him enough support. Maybe, but he also seems to not respond well to the support that he is given.
Yeah.
And it goes both ways.
Everything was just a mess by that point.
Yeah.
I mean, like, everything was just such a mess. Like, the Jedi were just trying to, like, win this war at all costs. Like, they're compromising their ethics. They knew what they were. We can all relate to this. Like, everything will be fine once we get through this.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah.
And I think that's what they were saying to themselves, but it wasn't true.
Yeah.
Everything was just such a mess.
It's like, what we talked about in Attack of the Clones, that ball, once it started rolling, you couldn't stop it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it all culminated to this movie. Unavoidable, watching what happens. It's going to happen. There's no other way.
Yeah, and I don't think that, I don't think that Anakin should have necessarily talked to Yoda of all people for advice. Yoda's not my favorite. He's whatever. I don't think that. I think I would have just talked to Obi-Wan. I would have just opened up to him. Or literally anyone else except for the 800-year-old guy who is just so old that his perspective is just so, skewed. Of course, Yoda was going to be like, rejoice for people who go back to the Force.
I mean, presumably as well, Yoda's seen more dead people than anyone else. Like, if that's not a skill that he'd mastered, he'd be nuts, because he's 800 years old and literally all of his friends have died, like, for generations.
It's very true.
Yeah. I feel like ultimately, while I think Yoda's advice is actually very sound advice, and it's actually very reflective of the Jedi mentality, the Jedi Order, the things that they believe in, which is you have to learn to let go. And perhaps this was not the advice that Anakin needed to hear, but it was the advice of a Jedi.
Yeah.
In that this, especially in the current climate, there's going to be people that you're going to lose. It's going to be horrible. It's going to be harrowing, but it's going to happen. So there's no stopping things that are going to happen. So what you can control is how you handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think it was the right...
It definitely wasn't what Anakin needed to hear, because it did not help him at all.
No,
and that gave Palpatine that little wiggle room to go in and be like, offering him this false promise of cheating death, which is not true.
Right. I mean, Yoda was right. It was just that wasn't the thing to say at the time. I would say, and I think many other of the masters would have been able to see that.
Yeah.
That's interesting. What would, like, I feel like if he had asked like, say, Plo Koon. I wonder what Plo Koon's response would have been.
Well, I do really wonder about like the way the Jedi view visions, because Anakin, this specific vision is actually a really good example of the fact that you cannot take a vision of the future as concrete reality, because you might wind up accidentally making it true by your actions. So presumably the Jedi response would be that this may come to pass, that you should be aware and thoughtful and prepared to react, but also accept that this might be an inevitability that you have no control over, and prepare for the fact that someone might die that you care about, and be prepared to let go of them. But I wonder whether like actually addressing the fact that it is a vision, and that doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to happen, or that by acting you might make it happen, and therefore it's not clear how to proceed, would have been more comforting or more helpful to Anakin than just saying, brace yourself for your wife, Diane.
Right.
Yeah, there's an interesting Clone Wars episode on, and I know this didn't happen when this movie was made, but the Clone Wars episode with Ahsoka in particular is what comes to mind, where she has visions of Padme getting hurt or dying, and she's very desperate to try to prevent that. And there's it's like a double-edged lesson of, yes, visions are valuable, but that does not mean that they're certain.
Yeah, and I think there's a similar conversation in Master and Apprentice by Claudia Gray.
Yeah.
Where Qui-Gon has to wrestle with the fact that he's having visions and how to react to those. And I think, again, essentially his response creates the thing that he's been having visions about. And there's a discussion in that about how the Jedi should handle visions.
Yeah, that was a good book. Just going to shout out. I enjoyed reading that.
But I think you're right, Annie, to say that. I mean, it's unquestionably not something that was helpful for Anakin to hear at that time.
No. I guess my question then for this is, why even bother getting visions? Why does the Force do that? Because it's not, I guess, what's the benefit of it then?
I mean, does it have to have a benefit? Something's just, I mean, it's a magical power that they have, right? I mean, I don't think they have a choice in the matter.
Yeah, it could be like a warning.
Yeah.
Like, hey, man, don't go down this path.
Yeah.
Like, you might be going down this path. Maybe like make it different. And maybe Anakin was just so obsessed with it. He didn't try to he just went about it the wrong way.
Yeah. Well, it's the problem that we have with Anakin consistently is an unwillingness to accept anything, that he fights against change, he fights against his own emotions, he fights against and so he fights against the future. I mean, he fights against this vision with everything that he has, and then of course the irony is that he makes it come true. We should talk as well about Order 66, just wrapping up Palpatine as a villain, which is probably one of the most heinous evil plans.
Oh yeah.
What do we make of the incredibly cruel twist that the clone army, who has faithfully served the Jedi individually, turns on them and obliterates them all?
Heinous, man. Crazy. Just and I can stop seeing it. Like in all of these shows, we don't need to see any more flashbacks. I don't need to see it depicted anymore.
Yeah.
Like I'm cool. I know what happened. I'm good.
I don't want to be put through another Order 66 flashback, although I think we will in all of the shows that are coming up.
God, like I'm sure we will.
Possibly the Ahsoka series. What I think about Order 66 is, well, it was a brilliant plan on Palpatine's end to have this failsafe that eventually he's going to, at the proper time, kill all of the Jedi once he's laid the groundwork for public opinion of them to be so unfavorable. It explains how the Jedi Purge happened and why the clones specifically were necessary to do that. I think it sucked. I did not like seeing it.
He was playing some serious 3D chess.
Yeah.
And also, when you watch the Clone Wars, you see how close they came to figuring it out.
Yeah.
They came so close so many times. It's just heart-wrenching.
Yeah.
I have this vague recollection of people not liking this idea of the chips in the clones, and that's how Order 66 happened. But I mean, the plan worked. It's not.
Yep.
Yeah. I mean, it's a Trojan horse. Like, it's...
Yeah. Literally, yeah. You got this gift of 1,000,000 clones, and now you're gonna suffer the consequences.
Once again, as many things in the prequel trilogy, it hurts me emotionally, but thematically, I really enjoy it because it's like, I think when we were talking about the Clone Wars, I said, I think the militarization of the Jedi is their big mistake. And the fact that it's through that comes around to be the mechanism of their own destruction is thematically very, very satisfying.
It's satisfying how that concluded because now you can see the purpose of why these clones were utilized at all. Yeah.
And the purpose behind the entire war. And the plan of the Sith, which is, the creation of the Empire and the ruling of all the galaxy. Sidious wins.
Boy, does he ever.
It's like the saddest sequence in the film to see when all the clones turned on their generals.
Yes.
Like Ayla, she didn't even get to defend herself. No. She just died.
Plo Koon is the one that always gets me.
Oh, that one's hard.
Yeah, I know.
Because his wolf pack turned on him.
It does always make me, though, think of that George Lucas quote about joy and pleasure, about how pleasure is impermanent and brief, and like you hit a bit like a drug. The first hit will take you up so high, and the next one will never quite reach it. And I feel like that's the rest of Palpatine's life. I mean, is he ever going to have a better day than Order 66? When he that's the peak of his career, and he spends the whole rest of the time just having slightly less enjoyable days with Vader until he peters out into a sad fall down a reactor hole.
Yep. That was his one good day. You're right. Yeah. It never got better than that.
Never going to get better.
He never had a similar victory. It was the height of pleasure. And, I think it would have been interesting if he hadn't gotten so deformed in that fight with Mace Windu, because then you could see he was actually just rotting on the outside from not getting what he wanted after the fact of Order 66 and having created his empire. Like, that hatred just consumes him because he has nowhere else to go.
I console myself with the thought that Palpatine had a miserable time.
Yeah. Old wrinkly.
Old wrinkly.
Yeah. So the next topic on my list is Anakin's fall. I know we've touched on it already when we've talked about the visions. And we've talked about Yoda's conversation with Anakin and the advice that he's given and the mistrust of him by the council. I think it's probably worth touching on just how much Obi-Wan still trusts him, given he spends the most time with Anakin. I mean, I guess to me it screams of a sense of willful blindness to the turmoil that Anakin's in, which seems to kind of be a consistent theme. I mean, we have Obi-Wan dismissing Anakin's dreams about Shmi. You have him here saying how proud he is of Anakin. He's obviously seeing the good in Anakin, but it seems like consistently Obi-Wan does not see and address Anakin's shortcomings and his, especially when Anakin gets more and more close to the edge. I mean, it really seems like Obi-Wan goes to Utapau and comes back and just has no idea that this was coming, whereas a lot of the council seems aware that something is up.
Yeah. Obi-Wan kind of played himself in that way.
It pains me to say anything even remotely negative about Obi-Wan, because I think Obi-Wan did the absolute best that he could, and he had a shit start to this Padawanship with a dead master and then a new prodigy shoved at him, like, I think.
Yeah.
And there's obviously a lot of love between them, but I think that it's something that creates a blind spot for Obi-Wan.
Yeah, I think it all shatters when he sees that hollow vid.
Yeah.
He's even still trying to reach him before they start dueling on Mustafar.
Yeah.
And then he realizes there is no point of return and that his friend is truly dead.
Yeah.
Sad, man.
What do we make of Yoda sending him to fight Anakin? Because, I mean, there's so many different ways you could read that. It could be literally what Yoda says, which is that he's the only one who can take Sidious, so that leaves Anakin to Obi-Wan. You could read it as Yoda trying to force that final confrontation where Obi-Wan either saves Anakin or realizes that there's nothing left to save and kills him. could be a test. I mean, it's Yoda, you never know.
Yeah, you really don't. You can't really predict what's inside that guy's head.
Yeah.
I think he's right, though. I don't think anybody else could have beat Sidious. Nobody that was alive or around at the time. Maybe Yoda was hoping that since Obi-Wan knows him the best, that he would be able to get a leg up on it. And he did use a weakness against him in the end.
He did ultimately win in the end.
He did. He could have.
He didn't take that last step, I think, needed to definitively stop Anakin.
Yeah.
I think the decision that was made was a correct one, objectively, because you would want to have the most experienced Jedi face off with somebody like Darth Sidious. But if he had go to Anakin, I think Yoda would have gotten the job completely done.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. Because Obi-Wan couldn't.
Yeah.
And I'm selfishly glad he didn't, because then we get more from him.
Yeah, and the great irony is it would have been Pandora's box thing, like if Yoda had done it, right? Because by accident, Obi-Wan leaves alive enough of Anakin so that Anakin can kill Palpatine and fulfill the prophecy. Whereas if Yoda had actually killed him, he would have, not only would they have lost everything, but then they would have lost the final glimmer of hope that ultimately saved them.
That's so true. Like, it needed to play out this way.
Yeah.
So for the future events to continue as they did, which was needed. Like, it had to happen.
Yeah.
Such a big tragedy. I can't talk about this.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's like, what is it? Like, objectively the best made of the three, but the most difficult for me to watch because it's so harrowing.
It is an exceptionally well-made film as well. Like, I think we've been quite open to criticism of the prequels, as much as three people who are very, very fond of those films can be. But Revenge of the Sith is objectively, I think, a good movie in many, many ways. The camera work is exceptional.
Yeah.
And the way that George Lucas continually references other visual media constantly is really on point in this film. I mean, that moment that Anakin and the clone troopers walk into the Jedi Temple is a reference to so many other clear visual representations of fascism. The color palette of the film, the slow sunrise throughout sunset, not sunrise, throughout the entire film as it darkens and grows darker and darker and more red as the film progresses. And the final, descent into literally hell on Mustafar. And then those final shots of hope at the end of the beauty of Alderaan, where Leia is living, and then the two suns under Tatooine. Like, this film is visually executed so well.
The visual storytelling is incredible. The color palette specifically, when you see the shift in color, the tone.
Yeah.
And it gets redder and darker and darker. There's no better metaphor for what's going on than what you're seeing right before your eyes.
Yeah. And the moment that Anakin has turned, the scenes in the Jedi Temple and before we hit Mustafar are almost black and white. I mean, I know it's night out, but you see the white of the stormtroopers and the dark of Anakin's robe, and there are almost no other colors in those scenes until the red of the lava on Mustafar. And it's just we could do an entire episode purely on color symbolism in these films.
I know. And that scene when he's like, they're staring off into the sunset before Anakin makes his final decision. And the music in that scene, so haunting and foreboding, something bad's going to happen. So few do you see that kind of build up to something so monumental and so tragic.
Yeah. Which leads me to, I guess, a glimmer of hope at the end, in that Qui-Gon comes back. And Qui-Gon is the first Jedi to maintain something of himself within the Force after death. To me, it kind of reads like Qui-Gon has achieved nirvana or something similar, that he's transformed beyond the cycle of life that has you unify with the Force and then maybe be reborn, but that kind of we work in this circle of come from something, go back to the Force, and Qui-Gon remains. What do we think about this? Because I think it has, to me, it's almost inescapable that it has some element of being, Qui-Gon stands out amongst the Jedi as transcending the rest of them. It's like he's almost, Anakin's the Messiah figure that falls and Qui-Gon's the Messiah that rises, that he's almost a counterpoint to Anakin's fall by returning in that moment.
Yeah.
What do we make of all of this? Am I making a mountain out of a molehill?
It is interesting that he was the first to do it. It wasn't somebody like Yoda. It was the guy that his apprentice was like, you gotta stop doing this, master. Like, he was a rule breaker.
Yeah.
He wasn't on the council, like making all the decisions and meditating all day. I think it was cool that it was him, that he was the one that was the first to do it.
It increases my love of Qui-Gon tenfold.
Yeah,
definitely.
He is, I think, a really great representative of what it is to be a Jedi in its truest form.
You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah, you don't have to be. He tries to do things right by others to the best of his ability, and I think you knew he was a very centered person when you saw him in The Phantom Menace, and I think that clearly is further shown by him achieving the ability to communicate with the present world from beyond the grave, and him achieving, like, I guess, Force Ghost status. Was he actually a Force Ghost, though, or was he a Force Presence?
Yeah, I think he's more of a Force Presence than a Force Ghost. He retains his personhood while being one with the Force.
Yeah. He retained his personhood and his communication through the Force, and to be the first person to do that is such an amazing thing. I just love Qui-Gon so much, and I miss him every day. I love him. If there's anybody who was going to have the title of first guy to communicate through the Force, I'm glad it's him. Makes sense. Total sense.
And then he taught Obi-Wan how to do it. And Obi-Wan taught Yoda and Anakin.
Yeah.
Or who taught Yoda? Was it Obi-Wan or was it Qui-Gon?
It's funnier if it's Obi-Wan, because it sort of implies that Qui-Gon immediately passed on teaching duty as soon as he could. He's like, always my butt monkey, like, once my apprentice, forever my apprentice, now go off.
I think, like, there's that theory that after Order 66, Qui-Gon's Force presence was going around to everybody and was like, this is how you do it. Okay, just do this and this and this.
Yeah.
You'll be fine.
Well, I don't know how much more of a theory it is now that we have The Rise of Skywalker, because there were a lot of voices in there, and and there were people who we did not think were Force ghosts or the equivalent of Qui-Gon in the Force. So clearly somebody's been giving out lessons.
Yep.
I will never forgive that nobody physically showed up for those scenes. I have just such sadness.
I mean, on the one hand, I'm like bitter that we didn't get Force Ghost Anakin, but on the other hand, I'm like, I can see why Hayden didn't leave his farm in Canada for this.
Yeah, I don't blame him whatsoever. He just sent a voice recording.
Yeah.
This is what you get.
Yeah. Because, I can't imagine what that script looked like when it was sent out to people. But,
we suck at keeping our salt.
I am sorry. I mean, I'm assuming that anyone who's a diehard fan of the sequel is either the world's most patient listener or gone. So,
I don't even mean to.
Yeah.
I don't mind that people like it. It's fine. It's wonderful. There's a lot of things in there that people will enjoy, and I think we'll talk about that later. It's just, it's so difficult for me to go through that movie.
Yeah.
Those movies. Yeah, I'll just leave it there. It's just difficult.
The choices that were made, I like the characters.
Yeah.
I think that the characters had a lot of potential. I think that there were some amazing actors in that lineup.
Oh my God, yeah.
Absolutely amazing actors. Holy shit, did they squander the actors.
Yeah.
I can't believe what they had in and they're just, this is what we ended up with.
Yeah.
It's like a missed opportunity, you know? Like there's a lot of great things that were possible.
Yeah.
Even Daisy Ridley, like she's a good actress.
Yeah.
And
we don't have to get into it.
The sequels are the next set of 3 after these ones, so we will do episodes on them, which will give us an opportunity to talk as well about the things that are good about them. I mean, for me, I think that there's a huge amount of possibility that was never acted upon, and like those that, like, you know, there's hints of things, there's setups for things, there's great characters that I really enjoy about the sequels. And I think the level of my salt is proportional to the amount that I'm like, nothing came of it. And the things that did come of it are not interesting to me. But I feel like this almost cycles back to what we were saying way back in the Phantom Menace episode about Anakin. Is like that doesn't stop me about enjoying the things about the characters that I do enjoy.
Yeah.
It doesn't make me angry that people enjoyed the films that I don't enjoy. And I think it's a ripe ground for speculation. I think that I'm grateful for the interesting things that the sequels gave us, but I'm not going to not talk about what I think is poor execution.
Amen.
Yeah, that's exactly where I'm at. Yeah. Well said. Well spoken.
Yeah. You can send me your comments on Twitter. We should probably move back to Revenge of the Sith.
Let's move back to Revenge of the Sith and Qui-Gon's Force Ghost being awesome.
Yeah. I mean, have we got any kind of final thoughts? Those were my 4 discussion points for Revenge of the Sith.
I want to praise Hayden and Ewan for the incredible lightsaber battle that they did on Mustafar.
Yes.
Legendary, just legendary stuff. So balletic, so powerful. Anakin's Kubrick stare gets me every time.
He's so good at looking unhinged. I mean, hats off to Hayden Christensen and his deranged facial acting, because like when the second he goes down, it's even before, because there's that scene of him like just weeping and staring at the sunset, and he just looks like 2 seconds away from just a mental breakdown. And then the second after he becomes Vader, he gets like the creepiest dead face, like
the creepiest. Even you see it when he's talking to Padme, when Padme's like, Obi-Wan wants to help us, and he has this really strange smile on his face, and I'm like, oh my god, I can't read what you're thinking, you seem really scary.
Creepy.
It's so creepy. I think he perfectly showed that switch into Darth Vader. Him fighting Obi-Wan, you knew this man was going to kill him ruthlessly. There was no holding him back anymore.
The emotion in that scene is incredible, and it's what a good action sequence should be, because it's not just about like cool flips, it's about the emotional connection between the people in that scene, and that nails it for me. Like the choreography is incredible, but the choreography is matching the emotional beats of the story.
You see Obi-Wan at some point, I think when Anakin is choking him down, where he has this true look of panic of like, I think I might die here, this might be it. And how that scene ends, I mean, we can't even, I'm not even getting into how quotable this whole Mustafar sequence is. But how that ends so horribly, the music cuts out. It's just Anakin, the lava, and the screaming of him in pain. And Obi-Wan just saying, like, you are my brother, I loved you. It was just so incredibly done. I'm going to cry just thinking about it. Shout out to Bail Organa and Breha being amazing. And the Lars family.
The Lars family are so cool. Like, I've got to say, if you rocked up with a baby to my house and were like, so I know you met your half sibling once, here's his kid, I would be like, cool, I'm not doing that. I would not like get out the blue milk. Step sibling.
Step sibling.
Like,
that you met one time and they were unhinged AF.
They I invited them into my house, and then they went out into the woods and did a murder and came back and fucked up my basement. Like, I just...
he must have really loved his stepmother.
Yeah.
He did.
I mean, it's Shmi, who wouldn't? But
yeah.
In the Attack of the Clones book, Owen truly loved her. He called her a mom. They had a very special relationship.
Yeah.
Full of love. He heard only good things from Anakin in there. So like I feel like the bar was pretty high. Tusken situation notwithstanding.
Yeah.
So it's very endearing that, you know, they took in Luke and
they raised him right, man.
They raised him right.
They sure did. The character that I think has been left out of this discussion, and I think that it's sort of emblematic of the way she was treated in this film, is Padme. Because all of Padme's great scenes are on the cutting room floor. So if you have not watched the deleted scenes, please do so, because the founding of what would become the rebellion is in there, and a lot of Padme's actual doing things in this film are in that as well.
She also has one of my favorite lines where she's like, this is how liberty dies, with thunderous applause, and she's just so disgusted. She was a great character. I wish we'd gotten more of her. I wish her scenes weren't on the cutting room floor. Her basically starting the rebellion was savage for Padme.
Yeah, I think that's pretty important, honestly. I don't know why they cut it, honestly. I guess maybe pacing. I don't know.
Time pacing.
Yeah, I mean, it is Anakin's story. In some ways it's appropriate that she's almost an object in Anakin's story, that he's like the thing that he's out there to save her, but like she doesn't get a say in it in any way. She doesn't get a leg in the plot. I think in some ways that makes sense. There is a dearth of Padme in here, and I think she's a character that is probably a bit underserved by these films as well, given how fucking cool she is. I mean, Padme is a force of nature, and, you know, exceptionally cool. Terrible taste in men, but otherwise excellent. And, you know,
her one flaw.
Gets sidelined at her own rodeo.
I did enjoy, though, that like the plot, the first movie and the second movie really was about Padme. I mean, the things were in motion because of Padme. I guess you could even say Revenge of the Sith and Anakin's actions is because of what he fears will happen to Padme.
It's true, but she did kind of get mommy tracked in the film.
She did, which is so unfortunate. But I love her. I really loved seeing her in the Clone Wars. We got so much from her in there. You get to see her politics and her kindness and her determination. I wish she wasn't gone. Bring her back, Disney. You brought everyone else back.
Honestly, her and Shmi.
The
Dead Mothers Club. I want them back.
No, bring them back somehow.
We're getting Baru back, so at least we'll see her.
That's true.
But Baru. Dead Mothers Club. Not fond of it.
I always thought it would be cool if Keira Knightley would come back and she could play Sabine. You know, like kind of how she does in the comics, and Vader thinks that it's Padme for half a second. That would be cool.
I should note there is a dead dad club. There's a lot of dead parents.
It's probably fitting that Disney purchased the rights.
I know. If we could see like a flashback to Padme, I just want to like stroll up to Natalie Portman's DMs and be like, "Listen, you don't know me, but I adore your Padme. Please, just if someone ever approaches you, just come back, please, please. You were my hero when I was a kid."
Right.
Yeah, I think I've waxed enough poetic on this.
Yeah, I don't think you can wax enough poetic about this film. It is my favorite of the three prequel films. I think it might be my favorite Star Wars film, which is possibly Fighting Words. But yeah,
I could see it. Yeah, I could see it being somebody's favorite.
Yeah,
I honestly could. It's just got so much in it. And it's so tragic. It's so it was just such a range of emotions in this movie. It's crazy.
I'd like to also just add that I appreciate how the prequels, we've reached the end now in Revenge of the Sith, and it had a very whole, complete message, a whole story that it was trying to show, and they 100% succeeded.
Yeah.
It was well made movie.
Yeah. Right. Lightning round questions. The dark side of the Force is a pathway to many abilities some consider to be unnatural. Right. He says many abilities. What are some of the other abilities that you think the dark side of the Force is a pathway to, and which one would be the coolest?
Sig, this is difficult. Maybe like, you know how there's like emotional vampires?
Yeah.
Maybe that could be like you just wear someone down. Maybe that was Palpatine's secret.
He's an emotional vampire.
He's an emotional vampire.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a big one because it's all mind games, you know. So I think he would have perfected this actual physical manifestation of an ability to just wear people down, or like making somebody lose half, like the other half of their sock pair. If they all just disappear, that could be a Force. That could be a dark sider ability. I could see Darth Maul doing that to like Ezra or something.
Yeah, maybe he could be in like a couple of places at once, you know, like Loki, like projections, because it just seems like he's in so many places at the same time sometimes.
I like that one. Yeah.
Here comes Annie with her intelligent answer.
No, I've just always thought like, man, this guy is everywhere. Like he's always popping up on these hollows, and like he puts on his robe real quick so that they can't see his face, and it's like, man, you're everywhere. And then like the next minute he's all nice and like, you know, old, but I don't know. There's just too many of them.
He's got eyes and ears everywhere.
Yep.
I realize I didn't come up with an answer for myself, which is foolish because I wrote the question. I think the dark side of the Force would give me a pathway to an ability. I think it would be like perfect memory recall, but exclusively for unhelpful facts. Like you can remember random song lyrics and pointless statistics and like, you know, the number of shipping crates in use at any given time, but it's never like the crucial helpful piece of information you need. Yeah.
Oh, that would be really funny. I just imagine all of these scenarios with Maul because I think he's one of the funniest Sith.
That fits his brand so much though. Is like Maul's like, he knows so many things and none of them are helpful to him.
I know. It's true.
And he's like trying to just like figure out how to survive, and he can't remember like what plants are edible, but he can remember that like, you know, woad is a really good dye, or like the specific recipe for like, I don't know, something.
Yeah, we love to see our favorite cockroach suffer.
God, yeah. Right. Question number 2. Order 66 implies that there are at least 65 other orders. What else do you think was on the list?
Oh my gosh.
For Palpatine's lavish lifestyle, there's definitely a dry cleaning order.
Definitely.
Execute Order 23.
Just doing his dry cleaning.
Just doing his dry cleaning.
That's so good.
There was a show that they were talking about making that George Lucas went on to write where Palpatine had a harem, so there were probably several orders in that.
Oh no. Oh no.
No, Palpatine. No.
This is literally Ray Palpatine all over again, because I've already done the Palpatine fucks freak out and I don't want to do it again.
I know. I was relieved when they said that it was all clone, that the son was a clone. I was like, oh, thank God.
Yeah, we're not. No. There's in Lego Star Wars where I think it was Execute Order 65 and then they were like breakdancing. That was delightful.
Yeah. I feel like one of them has got to be like a go home order. Like, so like he just pushes the button and every single one of them like hijacks a ship and goes back to Camino.
Yeah. That's makes sense.
Yeah. Right. Final question. What is your favorite clone?
Rex?
I was going to say Rex. I think Rex.
Interesting.
And Echo. I like Echo too.
Echo's good. I'm a Cody girl. He's just he seems so competent. It's very reassuring.
I love Rex's dynamic with, like, this very, hard weathered clone is working under Anakin Skywalker, complete loser, can't pull himself together. Rex has to be so creative and able to think on the spot because his general is just like
a moron.
And then he has to deal with Ezra Bridger later.
Oh my god.
The poor man.
Yeah.
Not just any clone.
Yeah.
The man of infinite patience.
Yeah.
Right. Well, make sure you let us know who your favorite clone is, and if it's Cody, then you are correct. And for now, thank you for tuning into the Kyber Collective. If you like what you heard, please give us a like. And if you've got something to say, drop us a comment below or on Twitter. Both of these help make us easier to find for other fans and are the best way you can support our work. If you'd like to keep up to date with our episodes, you can subscribe, and you can always talk to us on Twitter at Kyber Collective. We'll be back with another episode in 2 weeks. And until then, remember, the crystal is the heart of the blade. The heart is the crystal of the Jedi. The Jedi is the crystal of the Force. The Force is the blade of the heart. All are intertwined. The crystal, the blade, the Jedi. You are one.